Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of this Almost Adulting podcast.
So if you follow us on Instagram, you already know the subject. You actually had a voice in what we're talking about this week. Representation in pop culture, something really interesting, something that's always trending negatively, it seems. So it's something we put up to a vote, and it was by a wide margin. I think like 80%, 70%, something like that voted for this. And as always, we're starting new. Full version of this podcast is going to be available on our Patreon, and also the second video, the runner-up, which we're going to be getting into some fun TikTok conspiracies, things that have been popping up on our feeds for some reason. But this week we definitely wanted to talk about something that's important to myself, and then something that comes up in our lives just because of the things that we're into. So it's two people who are very much involved, I think, with nerd and pop culture, things like bigger franchises like
MCU? Star Wars?
The MCU, Star Wars. I was trying to think of like several different things, and then they're all Disney. It's Disney. Disney in general. Disney.
The Disney franchise.
You own everything. Disney. It seems to come up every time there's casting announcements, even movie announcements, things, stories that are focusing on certain characters.
One of the most recent things that we've seen, or I'm pretty sure if you're a Star Wars fan, you've seen on the internet somewhere, somehow.
Just the general abuse, I think.
Yeah, the racist attacks towards Moses Ingram. She plays Reva on the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. Exactly. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, it's something that comes up almost every time there's a person of color, and specifically like when it's intersectional within like women and then people of color. That just a strange thing. It's almost this whole, I want to call it like an industry of hate and frustration that a certain sector of fans, they're not even fans. It's so gross. These people who are going online and being upset that
a black woman is in Star Wars.
In Star Wars, there's a black woman in the galaxy. And this is not something new at all. This is something that's even gone as far as the prequels with Mace Windu. If you want to stick like specifically Star Wars, or if you want to talk about like the sequels with Rey, the fact that Rey was the main character of that trilogy was something that people complained about for, I don't know, however long it was, like 5 years, 6 years.
Like a woman leading?
A female lead in, yeah, exactly.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's definitely something that people complained about, and it's very weird contradiction. And I feel like it's something that you were just talking about in your class.
Why are you gripping this so hard?
I'm trying to hold on. I'm trying to make the audio as good as possible. So I think it's really easy to kind of get bogged down in the negativity and some of the anger and kind of gross things that you see on the internet on one side of the discussion where you're talking about representation. But on the other hand, I think in the past several years, there's been kind of a huge push in a positive direction to show characters on screen and show stories that really resonate with very specific groups of people. That goes hand in hand with giving people opportunities to direct and tell their own stories. I mean, one of the bigger examples in the past few years was Black Panther. That just seemed like an event. It felt like it was a worldwide phenomenon. You saw people going in large groups and feeling good about how they were represented on screen, and feeling proud.
Yeah,
it's really something special. And then on the Hispanic end, you have stuff like Coco and Encanto very recently that tell more unique stories that have their pros and cons, where you share traditions with other people, and it goes beyond just like that niche group who's enjoying it, but also becoming a pop culture sensation, however you want to put it, where people beyond just like Hispanic or Latino people are enjoying the stories and enjoying the the music and songs, and you see everybody kind of singing it, and yeah, it's really special because you're getting several different groups of people, and what's more important than just putting them on screen is that people are seeing that they're successful. People want to see these stories very clearly, just based on, if you're talking financials, things that Pixar has been pushing on Disney Plus, things like Soul or Luca specifically. When she Googled representation in Luca, it says Luca tells the story of two male sea monsters who have a friendship so intimate that many critics interpreted it as a gay allegory.
Isn't that weird when boys are just being themselves, being happy? It's seen as like gay, like right away. Like, I guess it was.
That's a very good point. Caught my own bias.
I really don't think that the movie's like team meant for that to like.
Oh yeah.
For them to have a romantic relationship. They're kids.
Yeah, of course. It's non-sexual, non-romantic. It's just friendship, kind of pure stuff.
I also came upon this article about Luca that Luca was just basically Disney's way of really not fully committing to representing the queer or gay community in their films, like Disney Pixar films.
They are known to do that. I think her and I were just talking kind of independently from this video in Beauty and the Beast and just kind of other movies. What other movies? Cruella. Disney's first gay character.
In Cruella?
And that's exactly what I'm talking about. They say it, but it's not like clear or pointed anyway.
You didn't catch it? Well, it's there.
It's there. Don't worry. We got it covered. It was the stylist or the person who owns the shop.
Oh, yes. I don't remember his name. Their name.
And that's my point exactly. They're not like the focus of any stories. They're kind of crammed in there for representation's sake, and that's where it goes bad, and that's where people feel like they're tokenized and that they're used for like being commodified for the sake of companies like Disney to say that they are inclusive and adding representation without telling stories that actually matter,
or without really fully committing to it.
Without fully committing, with still having the ability to take it out, to edit it for certain countries where they publish their movies. So to be able to edit around those characters is obviously a clear sign that they're not an important or focal part of the movie that they're in. And a few other examples that jump out are like in Avengers Endgame. That was the first MCU gay character, and it was just Joe Russo saying he had a husband.
I don't even remember that.
Yeah. So it happens when Captain America's kind of in that group talking about how to move on and talking about the blip and whatnot. It's kind of like the therapy group.
Wow, that just totally slipped my mind.
It's about 10 seconds in like a 3-hour movie.
Yay, gay representation in the MCU.
Yeah, it's pretty wild, and I think you continue to see that, which is really sad. It's really disheartening for a lot of people, and I think people who belong outside of those groups, they get kind of
outside of LGBT individuals?
Exactly. Like outside of the group that's trying to be represented, or so in that case LGBTQ. They feel like things are shoehorned in because they are shoehorned in, and they are shoehorned in for the sake of press releases and the sake of getting the word out that these characters are represented, when in fact they aren't. It's hard to know why exactly. I mean, sure, a lot of it is because of money and censoring in certain countries that are more oppressive in terms of certain representation. You don't know why, just because some of the biggest stories within the past few years have been focused on people of color, people of non-traditional main character backgrounds. I think in the theaters now, one of the biggest movies, maybe not financially, is Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Great film. If you haven't watched it, go
Amazing
watch it.
film.
At first, I didn't know how to feel about it because, I couldn't relate to it. But when I thought about it, and I really came to appreciate the movie a lot.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the most critically praised movies of the year that comes to mind. And on the first watch, it seems like it could be just a very specific niche Asian movie or Asian family movie just because of all of the main characters. But just based off of the 2 times that I've seen the movie and being able to see the diverse crowd and how they react individually to the story is really something special. Just because it's probably one of the most mixed movies in terms of age and race that I've been in that I can remember in the past few
Like
years.
the audience or the actors?
The audience and the actors. I guess there's a lot of there's a few older characters. I won't say they're old, but they're definitely older. It's in a genre that's usually helmed by young, like 20 to 30-year-olds, like the action movie genre. And I feel like you're seeing people move away from that as well. But just the people watching it, I've seen a mix of race and age from like young to like very old couples. And it just goes to show that word of mouth and a quality story is more important than a huge blockbuster with any number of random people or any kind of forced representation movie or any kind of tokenization. That people are connecting to it, although like this story is very specific to, I think, people of color specifically, and just like how parent-child relationship dynamic is. But people are connecting to that on a very deep level. And
When we watched it together, which was the second time you watched it, we were sitting in the back row, and the seats were pretty full. The whole back row of audience members, everyone was crying.
yeah, and not just like slight tears. There was
Like sobbing, crying. And
yeah.
at first I was looking around, I was like, I don't even know what's going on. Like, and I felt like I just need to back. I'm not here. Like, I don't know, but it was really nice to hear, I guess.
Yeah, people connecting to a movie that's very special beyond just like action or things that are popping on screen or references for reference's sake, like a comic book movie, which sometimes substitutes or sacrifices the heart of the movie for, oh, this movie's coming next and this is connected to this, and which is cool. I love that.
Me too.
But being able to tell a unique story, it's really difficult financially, I'm sure, to get a new intellectual property started in Hollywood. But for that to connect with so many people from the start is really something rare.
Yeah, I think the same time that movie came out, Morbius came out too. And I saw this picture on Twitter. It was like one person standing in line for Everything Everywhere All at Once, and this whole line of people in line for Morbius. And Morbius ended up being a movie. Hot take.
That's not a hot take. That is a very cold take. We were one of those people that were there opening weekend for Morbius.
I don't know why, but we were there.
I had hope. Jared Leto.
I honestly do not like Jared Leto.
It was very average. In my opinion. Some people think it was very bad. Watching TikToks mid podcast. Breaks are important.
Anyways, going back to representation in film, specifically representation of women in film. Obviously, women are still very underrepresented in movies, TV shows.
Yeah, and I think that's just, in general, you're talking about in terms of casting.
Oh, yeah. And even directors or for example, Eternals. Chloe Zhao was the first Asian American woman to direct a Marvel movie.
And there's about 100 Marvel movies.
Yeah, that's really crazy.
I'm really surprised they haven't had Angelina Jolie direct a Marvel movie, just because she starred and she's a pretty good director.
Oh, Black Widow and Captain Marvel, I think, were directed by women.
Really?
I think.
Yeah. I believe you. I don't know.
But that's what, 3 out of the hundreds? Like,
Yeah.
that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, there's definitely been a couple dozen movies and a handful of TV shows. Yeah. Yeah, I think that goes to our point before, like having the people who are capable of telling these stories, putting them in the position to tell the stories. And even in Eternals, you feel that special touch of showing women as women and not as like sexual objects, like they tend to be, and how even in the MCU they tended to be very early on, and still kind of tend to be in some points, and how they're treated by the fans. Like when you compare Black Widow and Iron Man 2 to Captain Marvel in her movie, I feel like the over-sexualization of her as a character, and I know that there's moments where the men are sexualized as well, but it's always like secondary to them getting good substantial stories versus the women being there specifically to be attractive.
Like, how long did it take Scarlett Johansson to get her own story? Like, after
After she died.
after she died, too.
She finally got her solo movie.
You're doing a good job, honey.
Yeah,
You're amazing.
I feel like I'm starting to shine in this podcast. Once I mastered the mic, I'm unstoppable. I just need to keep holding it.
So, going into more about the future representation of women in film, should I say like things like coming out, like Thor, Love and Thunder?
Yeah, I think you're seeing Thor, Natalie Portman as the mighty Thor. She's looking super buff. It's my dream body. I think a lot of, in the MCU specifically, like in this realm of movies, you're seeing a lot of like the roles that went to white male characters. Their second generation version of those characters are being represented by women and people of color, people like Thor, and then Captain America with Peggy Carter, Loki, Iron Man has Ironheart, which is a TV show on Disney Plus.
Did that come out already, or it's coming out?
It's coming out. Probably not next year, probably the year after that. Yeah, where you have like a black woman who's basically Iron Man. And
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they need that.
Yeah. Or even Captain America has Falcon, who is Captain America now. Black man is Captain America. That's awesome.
Yeah. After Falcon and the Winter Soldier came out, I feel like that also was a really big step too.
Oh yeah, that was huge. And going back to like the backlash on certain sections of the internet, you could very clearly see kind of the pushback that people have, and it's really weird. It's really weird how people reacted to giving a fictional character a fictional position in a fictional superhero team. But
people on the internet are very weird.
Yeah, I think that goes like these negative reactions go hand in hand with like the YouTube economy and like clickbait and getting views and monetizing those views, and hot takes and being negative and cynical spread faster than saying that they enjoyed the movie, honestly. Which is a negative part of like society as a whole. We have a lot of like fear and negativity spread more easily.
Yeah, social media.
Through social media versus a happy story. I miss when the internet was like the most viral story was like an animal on a skateboard or something.
Harambe.
Harambe, man.
R.I.P.
Yeah, so I think you'll continue to see stories that are more inclusive just naturally because of the directors and the people who are writing stories and people who are in different realms of the industry, people getting opportunities. So not only will you get stories that are specific to cultures, something like Coco or anything else that focuses on specific niche like traditions, you'll have people of color and people of different like sexual orientation and gender in different roles just naturally without mention, without it being a headline. I think that's something to aspire to. Something like a romantic comedy between an Asian couple or a Hispanic couple or any type of mixed relationship without it being the first whatever couple on screen, and it'll just be a normal thing like any other movie has become normal and not noteworthy. I think that's the goal, and people who are pushing against that will have to keep being
uncomfortable.
They will have to be uncomfortable, and they'll continue to be the minority more and more as people get used to these stories.
I feel like I haven't said much. I just really enjoy listening to Andrew because he's very smart, stoic on these kind of things, or about these kind of topics and whatnot. I feel like, I don't know, I don't have much to say because I don't feel like it's my place to talk about representation in film as a white person.
Yeah, I think that's totally valid, and I'm sure a lot of people feel that way. And just for the record, I'm really quiet like throughout the day in our real life. So like when I'm talking for extended periods of time, that's why she feels like I'm listening.
I'm like, he's talking to me.
But yeah, I think a lot of people who are in the majority, like white men and women, may feel like they don't have a voice in terms of representation, or they might not have anything to contribute, and that's fair. I think I'm probably talking the most because these stories are unique and kind of fresh to me versus things that I was grew up watching, things like in television, like sitcoms and things. They're largely white, except Family Matters. I love Family Matters. Shout out Eddie Winslow.
I feel like all that I could really do as a white person is really listen and learn, when it comes to topics like this, about people of color and their, how they're presented in society or represented in media and entertainment, because it's big and important.
Yeah, and then beyond that, just enjoy the stories. If you feel like you don't really have much to say, like people watching this, just enjoy the stories. I'm sure there's something in there that you can connect to, and I think that's the point of this whole discussion, is that it's important because it's normal. We live in a very mixed culture, and specifically like in Los Angeles, we see lots of different groups of people, so we're used to that. But people who might be in different areas of the country or the world who don't have those people to connect to, definitely go out of your way to try watching something new and connect with people through film and their art. It's really something special that it's widely available with the internet.
This is a fun discussion. I hope you had fun. I hope you had fun.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like this is a really big topic, so us talking with however long this video turns out to be is not the whole conversation.
Oh yeah, I feel like we barely grazed the surface of all this.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like it's hard to do without people of different backgrounds, and obviously people in different groups feel more or less represented. Different areas of television and film and even video games. That's a huge opportunity for representation there. But I think the trend or the ongoing growth of representation in the industry and pop culture is going to continue. That's just a fact. I mean, you have people that are at the head of the industry saying that they will continue to tell these stories. They're important. Yeah, so you have the people that are major characters in these franchises that hopefully you love, or that we love at least, that are saying that they appreciate the representation and the changes that have happened. So they'll continue to happen, and hopefully make a positive impact in reducing stereotypes and giving more substance to the connection that we have as different people. It'll continue to kind of grow and foster like a community, and it's really special. I mean, it's really something that's unique. I think a lot of people kind of think of certain groups and interests as small and less substantial in terms of their importance in the world, but the stories that we tell in pop culture are who we are as a society, and it's very important.
We want you guys to tell us what you think, what you thought of this discussion, or how you feel about representation in media and film. We love to read your comments, so yeah. We appreciate everyone watching. We hope you enjoyed this little discussion that we had. We barely touched the surface of it all, but we still had a good time. So we hope you guys had a good time as well. So make sure to like this video. Make sure to subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Follow us on our social media pages. I'll link them all below. Thanks for watching, everyone. We hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you next time. Bye.